If I can impart any piece of wisdom from this show, this entire series of episodes, it's not just to stack sats, it's to be a lifelong student. Being a lifelong student is so important for your personal growth, for your family, for your wealth, for your health, for everything. You should be a lifelong student. What's up, family? Welcome to this episode of Stack Sats or Die Trying. This is the Bitcoin Only Show brought to you by the Hood. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy. I'm a little excited right now, so forgive me if I sound a little bit geeked up, especially to those listening on the audio. We had our first week of our ownership camp for the youth, so that's got me excited. Also, almost finished moving. I'm at the new crib now, so as you can see by my background, I'm sitting on the rooftop deck, so that's exciting as well to be in a new space. I've been talking about the pain that is moving on a lot of our shows recently, but just about done. But so that's dope too. But this is the Bitcoin Only Show, and we're going to talk about why, again, Bitcoin Only with today's topic. This is episode 22, the Andrew Toney or Emmett Smith episode for my sports fans out there. So a lot goes on in Bitcoin culture, Bitcoin news, and I try to bring it to you as much as possible. Shout out to everybody who hits me up asking about specific topics that I will cover on the show. It's just so much to talk about as it pertains to Bitcoin because there's always something happening, right? And shout out to Pedro too. Pedro, if you're watching this, I want to send you a special shout out because you asked me about when I'm going to do the wallet show. And I am working on that. Like I told you, I was in the process of moving. So once everything gets settled, I'll get that show out to you. But today's show is about something I think is very important to talk about right now, where we are with price and with everything going on in Bitcoin, right? So this past week, it was a down market, a chance to stack more sats, get more sats back when you make purchases with Fold or what have you. But I saw something that I have to speak on, right? And that is the idea of people trying to make Bitcoin this asset that it's just not. And I want to put this out kind of as a warning, right? So let me share this article with you, and I'll make sure to put the link to this article within the show notes as well as the description. For all my audio listeners, I will read some of this article so you can get the context of what it is I'm saying and still understand the conversation we're getting ready to have on episode 22. You know what I'm saying? Don't mind that sound. That's the central air kicking in. You know what I'm saying? It's hot here in Philly today, by the way. It's like in the mid 90s. So, it is what it is. But this article comes from CoinDesk, right? And I'm going to read a little bit of this article so you can get the understanding. And the headline of the article says, Bitcoin could get Ethereum-style restaking as startup Lombard raises $16 million, right? First red flag, Ethereum-style restaking. We're talking about, like, what we doing here, man? What we doing here? But it gets even cringier. The article says, Lombard is partnering with staking startup Babylon to let users earn interest for restaking with Bitcoin, using the asset to secure other crypto networks. No, you don't secure crypto networks with the asset. That is, shout out to everybody working on this project, but it sounds like y'all scamming to me. And I'm not saying y'all are. I'm just telling you what it sounds like to me, right? So it says in the article, restaking is all the rage in Ethereum blockchain circles. It allows users to earn interest by leveraging their staked assets to help secure other blockchain apps. Even developers on other ecosystems like Solana are trying to replicate Ethereum's restaking popularity. Now, let me stop for a second. Restaking is popular. I went down that rabbit hole. I was a person that staked. I tried to make as much as possible by staking. I get it. I borrow from crypto. I've done all the things, right? Which is why I'm able to speak on it the way I can now. Now, back to the article. It says, so it was only a matter of time before restaking made its way to the most valuable blockchain, Bitcoin. That part's true. In partnership with Bitcoin staking protocol Babylon, the startup Lombard has raised $16 million to build out Bitcoin-based restaking. In addition to capitalizing on the restaking hype, for telling you right there is restaking hype, Lombard is the latest startup to integrate Bitcoin into the wider world of decentralized finance, also known as DeFi, an industry that has so far mostly been lacking on Bitcoin. It says Lombard aims to elevate BTC from a store of value into a productive asset which flows into the Web3 economy and drives substantial growth, the company said in a statement shared with CoinDesk. That sentence makes me want to regurgitate right here on my computer. You're using so much marketing speak and like, just buzzwords. Like all you're missing is cannabis, AI, and a bunch of other stuff that people like to throw into sentences to make themselves sound smart and to like trick people out of their money. But I digress. Next sentence, Polychain Capital. Anyway, led Lombard's funding round, joined by Babylon Chain Inc., Dow 5, Franklin Templeton, Foresight Ventures, Marana Ventures, Mantle Eco Fund, and Nomad Capital. You see Franklin Templeton. That's that TradFi money. Be careful though. All right, so now getting back to the article, restaking was introduced on Ethereum, right? And we all know that. I'm not going to read this full article. You get the point now. But here's what's interesting, right? It says Lombard's dive into restaking was built on top of Babylon, which lets people use Bitcoin to secure other proof of stake network. Paradigm previously led a $70 million funding round into the Bitcoin staking company. And it's talking about how it's going to use Liquid Bitcoin LBTC, which we could do a whole show on about what Liquid Bitcoin is. But this has so many buzzwords. It's just all right. Let's start by having a conversation by saying this, right? The reason I'm able to speak on this is because I've been down this rabbit hole before. It's kind of the reason why, like, let me phrase this another way. As it pertains to investing in assets, I have a certain level of success, and that's not to brag, but it's to say that the reason I have the level of success that I have is because of all of the mistakes that I made. I've made a mistake in every asset class there is, right? I got into investing at a young age, so I was able to make mistakes, learn from them, and then move on, right? Just make mistakes and move on. So give you a couple examples. In the stock market, when I first got into the stock market, what's the first thing that appealed to me when I still had that lottery ticket mentality? I was looking at, penny stocks. And I had all these dreams and visions of just buying the right penny stock, and then that money would explode to this, blah, 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 right? So I made that mistake. I went down that rabbit hole. I had a stock one time that went up several $1,000%, and I tried to sell and cash out, and there was nobody to sell to. I kind of got rug pulled in the stock market, right? But again, I started investing as a teenager, so I was able to make mistakes and bounce back from them. But now I can speak on the mistakes that I made. Hove did that, so hopefully you want to go through that. And no, I'm not calling myself Hove. It's just, a Jay-Z bar for everything, as they say. But the fact of the matter is, now you go to real estate. What mistake did I make in real estate, right? The mistake I made in real estate is over leverage. The highest point in my career, I had over 60 plus doors and I was making no money. Told the story several times, several platforms. It's because I had so much leverage. I borrowed so much money that my cash flow was next to nothing. I now make more money with less properties, right? So I'm able to speak on that because I've been down the rabbit hole of borrowing just to accumulate doors without doing the actual math to make sure that you're running a proper business. So I can speak on that, right? Now we get into the crypto realm. In the crypto realm, I went down every rabbit hole there is to go down, which led me to being a Bitcoiner, because the one thing I'll give myself credit for is with all these asset classes and all these things, as I invest and as I make moves, I continue to study. I think that's the thing that's most important. And one of the things I want to get across through this Stack Sats or Die Trying show, it's about Bitcoin. But what it's really about is like doing your homework, studying, reading on what you have. And even if you're not a Bitcoiner, but you just like the show, because I know there are some people like that as well. If you're in the stock market, make yourself a lifelong student, right? If I can impart a piece of wisdom through the show, it's not to buy Bitcoin, right? Let me say that again. If I can impart any piece of wisdom from this show, this entire series of episodes, it's not just to stack sats, it's to be a lifelong student. Being a lifelong student is so important for your personal growth, for your family, for your wealth, for your health, for everything. You should be a lifelong student. And I say that because the idea of staking, an idea of making Bitcoin a productive asset, we've been down this rabbit hole before, right? I've made the mistakes. The one thing I'll say is I got very, very lucky the last go around with all this staking and DeFi nonsense, right? So I was one who used to advocate for Celsius because I thought it was amazing to make those kind of returns on your Bitcoin. And for those who know what Celsius is, look up the Celsius, the Celsius scandal that happened within the crypto industry. I had a BlockFi card. I had a BlockFi credit card. I had money staked at BlockFi. I did this stuff decentralized on the Matic network. I went through all of these things, right? Here's why I got lucky. I got lucky because I was a lifelong student, as I talked about. And because of that, I try to make sure that I follow what's going on in Bitcoin news, which is how this article came across. And also someone sent it to me and asked me my thoughts, which is why I'm talking about it on today's show. So I stay plugged in. Staying plugged in has been the most valuable thing for me in everything that I do, Bitcoin and non-related Bitcoin things, right? Following the stock market news, with real estate, because I'm like, super local as it pertains to Philadelphia. Knowing what's going on in the local market has paid tremendous dividends for me. Being informed in Bitcoin is one of the things that saved me the last DeFi go around. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Corey Klippstein, who is I believe his title is the CEO of Swan Bitcoin, which is where one of the places I buy my Bitcoin. I only buy Bitcoin at Strike and Swan. And if you're looking to start using Strike or Swan, the link is in the bio as well as the description. Those are the only two places. I'm not Coinbase Ball. I'm not Gemini Ball. None of that. Strike and Swan. That's all I use. Anyway, but Corey Klippstein, who is the CEO of Swan, somebody that I follow on Twitter. And during the last craze in DeFi, he kept warning about it. And his warnings got louder and louder. And just like being in the spaces, I would listen to him on, the time Twitter spaces. And he would warn about what's going on with Celsius and BlockFi and all these things. And because of that, I cashed out. So he literally saved me. I don't know the guy. If any of you guys know him, you could tell him that I said salute. You know what I'm saying? But his warnings, I started taking heed to what he was saying, and he was absolutely right. But then as the things go down, it happened with BlockFi, it happened with Celsius, it happened with Gemini Earn, and Gemini is a well-funded company, but they weren't exempt from all this stuff of staking. The idea that you need my Bitcoin to secure another network is really laughable. It's actually laughable, right? So just please be careful out there. Do your due diligence. Become a lifelong student. Continue to study all the assets that you have, whether they're Bitcoin or non-Bitcoin. Because here is the fact of the matter. While you're chasing that small yield, you are giving someone access to the most valuable asset to ever exist. And I've said that every episode, and I'll continue to say that. Again, don't mind my central air. It's kicked off again. But anyway, here's the thing. To me, there are two assets that have the most value. There's Bitcoin, obviously, which is number one. And then there's land, right? Bitcoin and land, to me, are the most valuable assets. Don't get tricked out of your land. I tell people all the time about, like, stop losing Granny's house. Don't let anyone take your land, and protect your Bitcoin. Protect your land and protect your Bitcoin. But get the idea in your head that you want to protect your Bitcoin the same way you protect your land. Because one of the things about Bitcoin that gives it value is it's not a U.S. asset. It's a global asset, right? So let's just say that, we are in a shit hits the fan scenario. Our entire economy collapses. The market goes wherever it goes. Guess what? It's still usable all over the world, especially when you control your keys. Bitcoin is a global asset. It's not a U.S.-based asset. And it's not to say that if that happened, it wouldn't go down in value. I'm not that dumb. But at the end of the day, it's not tied to a lot of these other things. But Bitcoin and land, to me, because land also gives you the ability to produce food to help feed your family. Land gives you the ability to create things on said land to create more value, right? So land and Bitcoin. All I need in this life of sin is like me and my girlfriend, which is Bitcoin, and a piece of land. That's it. Just give me a piece of land and some Bitcoin, and y'all can do whatever it is y'all got to do, man. But a piece of land and some Bitcoin is what I need. So why would you turn over the most valuable asset to chase these small amounts of yield, right? It doesn't make any sense. I remember in the early days, back in the ICO days, right? And for those who don't know, 2016 is when I, finally got into the space. And we used to have all these crazy ICOs, which are initial coin offerings, where people will come out with these random shit coins. And in order to get access to their shit coins, you would have to give them your Bitcoin. You couldn't even trade cash for it at the time. The industry wasn't as advanced as it is now. There weren't as many exchanges as there are now. And what you would have to do is you would have to send them your Bitcoin, and they would give you back, their shit coin. This was even Ethereum, by the way. And I remember watching all these rug pulls of these ICOs, which would go out of business. And I remember everybody with the mentality, man, all I gotta do is find the next Bitcoin, and they would buy stuff, whether it was some of the old school joints that people used to buy, like Tron or IOTA and all these crazy different cryptos. But you would have to trade your Bitcoin, and I would watch these things crash and burn. But what you wouldn't do is get your Bitcoin back. So people were literally creating things as a way to get their hands on your Bitcoin, and you to buy nothing but a dream. Stop buying dreams. You know what I'm saying? Go out there, produce, create value, and then use that value and store it somewhere. You know, buy some land, get you some Bitcoin, stay out the way, like, you know, and enjoy your family, as I always say. But just please be careful, because I see more of this coming up. This article was just, you know, something that was sent to me, and I saw by being you know, in the mix, as I say, in Bitcoin, just listening, learning, and continuously reading. And, you know, I get pop-ups on my phone from CoinDesk, you know, from Cointelegraph and all these other places, and I read these articles sometimes. Not most of them, you know. Sometimes there's nothing to really talk about, but when I saw this article and someone actually asked me about it, I said, man, let me address this on the next episode, because I don't want anyone to go out there, create value, produce, put it in something, and then try to, you know, use an asset for something that it's not used for, right? You wouldn't give your gold, if you had a gold bar, you wouldn't give it to someone and say, yo, pay me a yield on my gold. You wouldn't do that. Doesn't even sound right. It doesn't sound like it doesn't make sense. But because this is digital and people could play in your face with these buzzwords, the Web3 and the new technologies and the this and the that, like, come on, man, what are we doing here, man? Like, what are we doing? Just be careful, man. So that's what I want to talk about this episode, man. I appreciate all the support of Stack Sats at Die Trying. Also, I just want to shout out all the students from the first week of the Buy the Hood Ownership Camp, because even one of them said something to me that made me think about this article, maybe really want to address it. Just in week one, we got some brilliant students. And this was a young man named Zaid. Shout out to Zaid. He's a very brilliant young man. But one of the things he said in week one of the class is, man, all this is good, but you got to protect yourself. People are always out here trying to take your money. And we all laughed when he said it. But he's right. He's right. When you start to build and create things and stack things, people are coming after your money. So, you know, stack sats and die trying, but also as you stacking them sats and die trying, make sure you're protecting your sats, make sure you're protecting your assets, and, you know, don't let anybody play you for a fool by using buzzwords and all kinds of nonsense. I mean, and the people that work at these companies, they might be good people or whatever, but my Bitcoin is too valuable for me to just be giving you to protect another blockchain. My Bitcoin is too valuable. My physical Bitcoin that I have self-custody of, if I have it, because I really lost it all in a boating accident. I don't have any Bitcoin. But if I did have it, it was too valuable for me to play these games, which is one of the reasons why I'm one of the only Bitcoiners who's okay with iBit and all the ETFs, because I can use all those to leverage and play those kind of crazy games with if I decided to do that, which right now I'm not. I'm stacking iBit too. But I can see myself in the future leveraging my iBit to buy another piece of land and then have that land, you know, boom, play those games. But I would never, if I did have actual Bitcoin, put that Bitcoin at risk to play any of these foolish games, man. Like, my Bitcoin is just too valuable. It's the scarcest asset there is. I'm gonna take the scarcest asset known to man and give it to you to get, like, no, I'm not playing these games, man. And a lot of this yield is not even paid back in Bitcoin. They be paying you back in, like, you know, shit coins. Not saying they're doing that, because I'm not even going deep down in the rabbit hole of their specific platform. Once you tell me that you're using Ethereum to create something, like, you're using too many buzzwords and you're doing too much, man. You're doing too much, man. So continue to stack sats, man. I told you so. It's the shirt I got on the day, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to make sure people know I told you so. I told you so when we were at, you know, $1,000, what this was. And yeah, I mean, y'all ain't listen. So even though we down right now, what we got, 50, 55? I was telling y'all since we was a stack, man. Listen, I appreciate y'all. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTubian stuff. Share this with your family and friends. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you hear my warning and you're still going to go out there and chase that yield. I don't care if that. I mean, listen, I'll give you the warning. You do what you want to do. Let me know how you feel about it, though. Leave me some comments. Give me some feedback. But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Stay safe, because it's a crazy world out here. And as always, stack sats or die trying. Peace.